Where's it come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that Eagle Cliff water? Cool.
I don't know, I haven't talked to that lady. I don't know
I
whether
know, I'm drinking Mount Seymour Reservoir water.
Dave is coming.
You bring that from the shore?
I showed that to people. I said, yeah, that's fine.
Well, I was hoping they were gonna be here.
Yeah, well, you can represent anything else.
It's a bit early.
Just trying to.
Oh, here comes the late.
Here they are, here they are.
Oh, hallelujah. Hi, guys.
Yeah, you are, you're almost good. Yeah.
Just squeaked
Have
it
you
in.
got a spot for you up here?
Rich.
Oh, okay, do that.
Just squeaked it in,
Oh, no,
Dave.
oh, I go there, that's fine, that's fine, that's
Keyword only.
David, would you like to go there, please?
fine. Oh, I didn't see your name tag.
Come on, Dave, you sit beside me.
Sidewalk.
Oh, I got a computer doing it.
No, you don't. You couldn't be playing with that.
David, when I was your student, you always called me late.
You were on
You did.
I'm gonna move this out of the way, sorry.
You were his student.
I was his student in Prince of Wales.
Really?
Really?
Or you like the teacher?
Yeah. It's a long, long time. I'm matured.
Very.
Yeah, you do.
What's happening? The cameras are on, by the way.
Mine's
I think a tennis player got reprimanded for doing
Yeah,
right? Something like that. I was like, what?
This is why we're.
I'll wait till I do that halfway through the meeting tonight.
Uh-oh.
Shall we get started? Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome you all to the municipal water system meeting for the Eagle Cliff neighborhood. My name is Raj Hare, by the way. I started with the municipality in February of this year. And so the last time we had one of these meetings was, I believe, about 2016. So it's due time to kind of give you guys an update on what's going on and whatnot. So in terms of today's meeting, I've got, this is not working. Oh. Where does it go on from? Sorry about that technical glitch. So for today's meeting, we'll just be going over a quick overview and summary of quick facts of the water system. I've got a graph of consumption by users in the Eagle Cliff neighborhood, and then some financial reports we'll go over. We'll look at 2017 results, the 5-year financial plan that was approved by council back in March. And then Bob is going to go over capital and the drinking quality report that's done every year. I believe it's for coastal health, is it, Bob?
Vancouver Coastal.
That's Vancouver Coastal Health, yeah. So without any further ado, we'll just dive right in. So just quick facts about your water system in Eagle Cliff. There are 105 connections, give or take a couple, as people come on board. The water supply for Eagle Cliff comes from Cartner Creek and from the deep water wells. And most of the infrastructure for the water system was put into place in the 1960s. So it's probably over 50 years old. Is that correct, Bob?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay. And in terms of your rates that get charged, so up to basically annual consumption is averaged out on a daily consumption basis. So up to 50 gallons a day costs you $430 a year. As you can see, and if you go from 51 to 100, if you consume between 51 and 100 gallons a day on average, you're paying 440, and 101 to 150, 465, and so on, up to $580 if you consume up to 225. One thing I forgot on the graph was consumption over 225 is billed at the rate of $1.50 a gallon per month. Is that correct, Annette? Or no, just $1.50 a gallon, not per month.
Yeah.
Sorry. So just $1.50 a gallon. So what does this all mean? Well, in terms of consumption, We've got the 106 households that are on municipal water in Eagle Cliff Draft over here. And the average household consumes about 31,000 gallons a year. But you can see consumption is all over the place. There are many that are consuming less than that and others that are consuming more. So if you're consuming about the average, which is 31,000 gallons a year, you'd be paying about $440 a year for your water, plus the parcel taxes that are applied, which are about $220. And if you consume about 150,000 cubic meters, you can be expecting to pay about $900 for your water. 150,000 gallons. Yeah. And a household that would be consuming about 100,000 gallons can expect to pay about $650 a year for their water based on your billing rates. Is there any questions on the graph or the previous quick facts chart? No? If not, I'm going to move into the financial results. So I'll focus on the 2017 column, which is the second column right here. And so we collected in 2017 approximately $85,000 to pay for the operating expenses of the...
Right. It's also in here, it's page 2 of the package, if you're having a hard time seeing the screen.
So we collected about $84,000 in fees and parcel taxes to pay for the operating expenses and capital expenses of the Eagle Cliff water system. 58,000 of that went towards operations, and 26,000 was put into capital reserves for maintenance of capital infrastructure. We see an amortization line of $26,522. We don't collect fees for that because that's a non-cash expense. It's just amortization. We don't budget for amortization, and so the bottom line there just works out to the amortization number there in the actual 2017 column. So we ended up contributing about $8,000 more to reserves. That's a $26,000 line, just up from the subtotal down below. So about $8,000 more than the budgeted contribution of $18,000 as a result of our operating expenses being a little bit less than what was budgeted for or anticipated. So in terms of the 5-year financial plan that was approved by council back in March, basically the operations of the Eagle Cliff water system are anticipated to be about $72,000. We anticipate to put $9,300 into reserves for total expenditures of $81,100, which is equal to the budgeted revenue for 2018. So utilities are always self-funded, which means essentially the expenditures of operating a utility and maintaining the infrastructure in the utility have to be borne by the users of the utility, so that's paid through by user fees and parcel taxes. And that is the standard way that utilities are operated in all municipalities. And in terms of the capital plan for the Eagle Cliff water system, 2017 we actually spent $3,400 on upgrades and pit pads, in comparison to a budget of $54,000. So there was a provision put into the plan in case pumps needed to be replaced or other works needed to be completed. And essentially those provisions were rolled over in 2018. And then we have basically a provision for maintenance in outer years. And I'll let Bob kind of expand on that if there's anything further you'd like to say on that. And then Bob will get into the water quality report after this, which is also part of the package that you have.
This is for Bob. Is this the time to speak for the liner?
Yes.
Yeah, so that has been purchased?
No, it hasn't. No, that's why it was budgeted in 2017, but I never spent anything yet.
So all of those things are going to.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
But we didn't budget for it in 2018.
No.
No.
Because remember, we were asked to do
Yes, we're gonna do that.
an engineering study first.
And you have some in later on?
Yeah,
Okay. Or would you speak to that now?
no, I'll speak to it when I do my yearly report.
And are there any questions on the financial charts, or?
I noticed there are a balance of $191,000. Does the municipality pay us interest on that?
They did. So essentially, yeah, that's the one chart I forgot about, sorry. Eagle Cliff Water System had an opening reserve balance of $212,000 for 2018, and anticipated projection to reserves for this year is $9,300. If we were to use the entire provision for capital, it would draw your reserves down to $191,400 at the end of the year. If, however, capital works are not done this year, then your reserve balance will be higher. That $30,400 won't come out. So we only take out of the reserves what is used or what is spent on capital works during the year, even though we have a budgeted provision for the entire amount. Any questions? Yeah.
How are the wage, benefits, supplies, and services allocated to the different water systems?
The budgeted allocation is based on the number of connections in each water
So
system.
we got 110.
Yeah, so we would prorate over the entire, so we've got 7 water systems in the district. So we would prorate 110 of whatever the total number of water connections in the entire system are.
Okay, thank you.
Does Annette know that number off the top of her head?
The total?
Yeah.
It's about 1,000.
There's like 1,200 connections,
1,200?
640 in Cove Bay, which is like 52% of the, and then they've calculated it based on connections. So if Cove Bay has more, then they get charged more than you guys. And like Bowen Bay, say, for instance, has 55 connections. So that's the way they've calculated it, based on connections, not, and then it turns into a percentage.
If not, then if no more questions, I'll turn it over to Bob to go through the water quality report.
That's you, the big spike one, that's you,
It's not
David.
8, mine's 62. Problem solved?
Yes. That's likely an Airbnb that we had a problem with.
Does everybody have the fact
Big
packet?
income from
Yeah.
So this is,
So I will go through the,
it's the one that looks like this, starting with.
yeah, the annual report. So we have to produce one of these every year for each water system for Vancouver Coastal Health. A lot of it is the same stuff in each water system. So I won't stick with a lot of it, but I'll go through page by page. If you have any questions, just stick your hand up or holler at me and I'll stop. So, first of all, I don't look at the administration on it. That's for every system. Then I go into page 5, the regular water system, the general, how it actually, your water system works. Does everybody understand how you guys get your water? Water comes from the creek into the reservoir, goes into a sort of a rough screen, goes down to your, actually do this, so it goes down into your PRV, pressure reducing valve. It reduces the pressure from your open reservoir down to a working pressure of about 80 PSI. We chlorinate it, and then it goes to your houses. There's no sand filters, there's no, other than chlorination, that's the only treatment you guys have.
ultraviolet?
I thought it was on-
There is a UV.
I thought
Sorry.
there was also arsenic when the wells are on.
When the wells are on, it goes through, like right now, we've turned the wells on, so it goes through a green sand filter, which actually gets rid of your arsenic, and that gets pushed into the line, actually above here. So your wells are here, it gets pushed in there, so if you're using, say the wells are producing 10 gallons a minute, and you're using 9, 1 gallon will go this way, and 9 will go this way. If you're using more, it'll take your well water plus your reservoir water, and at night, then it'll fill this line up and actually fill your well, put water into your reservoir. That's why you'll have such a variety of water taste. It's not the best system to deal with this, but that's the only system we have to work with, so. You're playing with well water and surface water together. It's really hard to try to keep it balanced.
So when were those wells turned on?
About a month ago,
And are they cycling like you did the year before?
yes.
So one runs for?
We've actually got timers on them, so they'll run for an hour, then the other one runs for an hour, and then after midnight, we shut them down, and then we start again at 4 in the morning, and then we start cycling them again.
Right, and so at what point at the reservoir would you go, okay, there isn't enough water in the reservoir and you run them 24/7? Is that it?
Down, after it gets down about 1.5 meters, 2 meters below where it should be.
Yeah.
Has it?
Where is it now?
They're pretty low, they're like 2 meters below the
Yeah,
rest.
6 feet is
Yeah,
I got a mark there.
oh,
There's still lots of water.
1.87 meters.
Is it really?
No, yeah, like 2 meters below where the spillway is.
We still have lots of water.
It'll slow down after this weekend, let's put it that way. So, any questions on the water system?
The PRV that we take it down to 80 pounds, does that mean that we don't need to have a PRV at our connections going onto the property?
No, you still should have a PRV at your house, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Bob, just one. So if it only got turned on a month ago, was there any reason why I didn't get, because we had a sense that we were gonna have a dry summer, turn it right on at the beginning? I'm just,
It costs you too much money to run, your sand filters only run so much water,
Okay.
and then you have to start taking all that sand out
Okay.
and replacing it again. And, you know, in May and June, it was relatively wet, then it
Oh,
started
yeah.
drying out, and then you sort of,
No,
you flip a coin.
no, I get that,
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get water in another,
yeah.
and then we'll shut them off again. So really, your wells are only running for maybe 2 months, possibly 3 months, rather than running them all summer.
Yeah, no,
It costs you money to run your wells.
yeah, they're expensive, I know.
So that talks about the treatment, talks about your water system, what you have in the ground, your 11 fire hydrants, 2 standpipes. Fire protection, you guys do not, under FUS, fire underwriters, are not classed as being protected because of a lot of issues from the reservoir down to the PRV and also along the main Eagle Cliff Road. Your lines are 6-inch, which can't give you enough volume for your hydrants. Then we go into what, anybody want to yell at me for that? Any questions about that?
You weren't here for it, so we can't blame you.
Well, you can blame me anyway, it doesn't matter.
I just wondered, are there any plans for actually ever improving that?
Actually have an engineer looking at it right now to try to figure out what it would cost to do an upgrade. There's a couple different ways of doing it. Okay, I'll talk about this now. So you can take a brand new 8-inch line from your reservoir down to the PRV and have a separate system just for hydrants. So you still treat your water and you don't have a reservoir or anything, but you can treat your water and get fire flow. That'll be over $1 million to do. That's just the facts. Another way to do it is you can take the water from the reservoir now, gets chlorinated, we build a storage tank. So now that's actually treated water, and then from there you need an 8-inch line down along your road too. So we're weighing out, it's actually a draft report, which is, I hate to tell you when they say draft, they don't even spell draft right. DRRAFFT. So it's really preliminary right now. So we're looking at, it's gonna be $1 million to $1.5 million to do that, one way or the other. So we'll look at both options, and then likely, I would say, later on this year or next year, when we come back to the, you guys, then we'll lay it out and say, this is what we recommend.
Are there other, of the other water systems on Bowen, are they all compliant, like if you ask?
There's some that are, some are not.
What's approximately how many aren't?
Cove Bay is,
Okay.
Hood Point is. Bowen Bay is not, because they don't have hydrants, they have standpipes. Tunstall Bay does not, or Tunstall Bay,
Most of it is.
most of it is. Blue Water is not.
Part of it is and part of it isn't.
Yeah. It's not just so much water flow. When FUS does the report, they have like 40% with the fire department, 30% water, 10% this and 10%. So there's a whole bunch of variables, not just water, and it's just not the fire department. There's a whole bunch of other variables in it. But if one of them does not work, then you can't make it.
But the fire department and everything else works because the other systems, Twin Points meets the test.
Yeah.
Most of them, but distance, Cowan
The
Point does.
distance,
we
yes.
do. Yeah.
That
King Edward
million and
Bay
a
does.
half, is that including an increase in volume at the reservoir?
No, that's just the reservoir, 8-inch line down to a PRV station and it's just a real rough estimate along Eagle Cliff with proper hydrants,
So
with
that's
flow.
just the piping.
Yes,
Would you require a larger volume of water?
not at the open reservoir,
Yeah.
but if you want to treat your water and then use that water, your treated water, as your firefighting also, then you'd have to build a big steel tank somewhere down where it's chlorinated now. And then up the hill a bit, so,
And that's because you're running it through the same main that you're taking your drinking water out of, so it's gotta be treated.
yeah. So,
Where would you put that?
it would have to be up.
Rich's property?
You're welcome to put it in my.
Actually, it would be above his place, because you still need that pressure.
Okay.
So it would go through the PRV and go back up, and then it would sit at, I think our pressure is like 87, so you have to have an elevation of like 200 feet above that. So it'd be above Dave's house, basically, and then there would be no PRV or nothing, it would just go back into the system. That is the best system. Then you're not on a boil water, you're not anything, you don't have two systems to deal with, but we'll talk to the engineers when they finally finalize it.
Bob, these $1 million plus that you're talking about, do both of them mean that there would be an 8-inch line, a new 8-inch line on the
Yeah.
roadway?
Yep,
So for everyone, that could be really good, because at that point, we now meet fire underwriters. And that rate differential, I think ours was $700 or $800 or nearly $1,000 more, once they found out we didn't have firefight, or we became aware of it.
For household insurance.
So you can start to, so it's from a householder, you can start taking the point of view. That million sounds like a lot, but if you're saving $600 or $800 a year, it doesn't take many years before that's paid, you paid yourself back, in a sense, right?
but to be,
Yeah.
I understand, that's true along the main road, but say for instance you live up on Upland Trail, or Murray, you live down there, the insurance may not cover that, even though you've got a hydrant above you, they're talking about actually insuring each individual, they look at each individual house and lot, not the whole area, the way they do now, so it may change, so I don't wanna let everybody go, yeah, you're gonna save tons of insurance if you spend $1.5 million, and then all of a sudden you're in Upland Trail, and it's like, I still get paid, I still have to pay the same, so be careful with that.
Is that distance to hydrant, or what's the?
Distance hydrant, and then it's how you can get to that, like the fire department, how you can actually get to your house. So,
But would Upland Trail have the big enough line to have the volume and pressure that,
no,
Yeah.
not even close.
yeah.
So it's not fair,
So but if they put in a better line, they might be okay.
I'm not gonna say that.
No.
Or could they put a pump on?
There's a whole bunch of different issues there, not just putting a pump in a bigger line. It's just the actual access to it.
Oh, I see.
So I don't want you to get led astray going, if we all put in this money, you're gonna get cheaper. Some people may, some people may not. That's the insurance companies doing it. Murray will have to pay twice as much for everybody else.
Bob, again, I'm sorry, when we asked through the Eagle Cliff Community Association that they begin this engineering study, the proposal that we put in was not to improve the 8-inch line on the roadway. All it was.
That's a 6-inch line.
Was to leave our hydrants and everything as they are, but we do have 8-inch now, like with, let's just say it's the tank. The tank has got an 8-inch line, so that means our flow rate is based on a 6-inch diameter, which is a squared thing, so versus a 3-inch line, which is the one that's pinching it down. So even though it wouldn't change our insurance, it would improve firefighting immensely, because
Yes.
they would have to flow. Like when that house burned at, what was it, Gray and Ritchie's thing, if they had to pump with 2 trucks to get the water. Where if it were tank, 8-inch line to the 6-inch lines, you wouldn't have had any issue about worrying about flow from those hydrants. Running a
So there's a reality, what actually happens in the real world, and what FUS wants to see on paper. Totally two different things.
That they test.
Yeah. But if you stick with the 6-inch lines along the road, you will not get fire. FUS will not say that.
But I thought it was, we had put forward a proposal to look at it in a staged
Yep.
perspective, that the first step was.
Like, what's the cost
To
without
look at the tank,
Yep.
and as you say, the 8-inch lines to the tank, et cetera, and.
And then work your way out a little bit. So once I get this sorted out with the engineers, yes. And it'll just be strictly, it's gonna cost you this much per meter. And then we'll decide then, do we go to this road for this year and then another road next year? Rather than,
Yeah. Well, just because then the front end cost would be, well, it's significantly less, because, I mean, you're putting the road glue on it is a mess. Anyway, okay, yeah.
Can we get financing for this?
Yes. I know.
Raj can talk about it, but very seldom you'll get
Grants.
a grant for improving your water system. If you somehow, or if we somehow fudged in that you're building a treatment plant to put to the tank, then if you're improving your water,
The quality.
the water quality, then there's a chance that there'll be grants.
Like putting in a sand filter.
Yeah, something like that, yes. But then, now you're spending a lot more money.
Yeah.
So the 1/3 may not work out as well either. But we will look at that.
And to answer your question about borrowing money, yes, the municipality can borrow money, and there's a process to go through and whatnot, council approval and everything, but yes, you can borrow money and then pay it back over time.
For water system?
For water systems as well, yes.
So we have to have,
But we-
would we need a referendum in the water system to borrow? Because they're the ones that are on the hook for the borrowing.
Essentially, I'd have to look into
Yeah, I
whether we
mean,
need a
'cause we-
referendum or not, I don't have the answer
Yeah.
to that. I don't believe you would, because for a project of this scope, because it would be the municipality that is borrowing,
But
and
we
then
have
you're
the-
recovering that.
But we can't borrow any more than about $300,000 or $400,000 without a referendum, I think.
Okay, if that's the
Yeah.
case, then, okay,
Okay.
I thought we could borrow more.
Because we're little.
Who's little?
Us.
Over me. That won't do it.
Yeah, because that's,
$1.5 million.
So we,
Do we have a process?
What we do, we
when you
have to make
the
it up.
8-inch line represent?
It's,
Not doing the 8-inch line.
Sorry?
it's in here, it's not, I don't really trust it yet until I talk to them.
Approximately?
A line,
putting in the 50,000 gallon tank and an 8-inch line down to.
Yeah.
Is that half of a million, or is it?
Yeah, it's 8 something or 7 something, yeah. David, I know you could have put it in for $20,000 20 years ago, but you know, you can't
But
do
you
that
didn't
now.
do that.
Sorry.
Well, again, I thought relative to the potential for grants, I thought one of the advantages of having the 50,000 gallon tank was, in essence, it turned our water system from an open watershed
Yeah,
to an enclosed treatment
yeah.
facility, and that would be something that
That could hinge on
the
quality.
authorities
That-
would be all over and be very.
That's
supportive
true. You'd have to do more with your water system than just chlorinating it and UVing it. So you'd have to have something else in there to put it to the tank. But we definitely are looking at it that way.
What's the something else?
Well, you'd have to filter it somehow. So like a rapid sand filter, a slow sand filter, or,
Like physical particulate or?
Yeah.
or-
yeah.
But those aren't that expensive.
Nothing is ever cheap anymore.
Oh, I know that.
So, yeah, we are looking at that. So now we're going to the water any more fire protection stuff? So the water quality, so we test the water every day, 3 spots in Eagle Cliff. We send off our samples once a week to Vancouver Coastal Health. And then twice a year we test for THMs and HAAs, which are a byproduct of chlorine residual. And then we actually do 2 raw water samples. We test the reservoir and we actually test one of the wells to see what's actually is happening. And now I'm testing the raw water every week through Vancouver Coastal Health, because I'm trying to fight saying the water coming from the reservoir, we should have actually a filtration system of some description. And if I can get Vancouver Coastal Health to say, you know what, this isn't good, then it's easier to get a grant. So I'm working on it. I just don't sit in my office all day.
Or you just drive around.
So, yeah, I just drive around. So you can see where we do our chlorine residuals at both ends of the leg on page 7. Check turbidity, we have so in 2017, we did 102 samples that get sent to Vancouver Coastal Health. We didn't have any bad samples, so that's why you never got onto a boil of water, and there was no samples of E. coli. And then if you go to page 8, it just shows the chlorine residuals. And if you look in 2017, what we try to get every day is 0.2 parts per million of chlorine residual. When you have wells going and the lake or your open reservoir, that it'll spike one day and go down to nothing the other. That's why you can see the high is 2.2. That's the highest we can read, and then it goes down to 0.05. It is very hard to control that. So the average was 0.7, which is high, but if you look on the other side, Eagle Cliff, on the other end of the line, the average was 0.4. So once the water comes down, it doesn't get distributed equally. This one will be high, this one will be low, the next day this one will be low, this one will be high. So it's really hard for the guys to actually try to keep it at 0.2. If you got rid of your turbidity and you filtered your water, then everything would it would be a lot easier to do. It would you'll have almost the same residual on one end of the line and the other end of the line.
And that would also occur if we put in that 50,000 gallon tank? Would it,
This would be the same if you just put in a tank and did nothing else. This would be the same. Unfortunately, you got to get rid of your turbidity.
Again, Bob, sorry. I thought some of the discussions that were had, not with yourself, but amongst yourselves, that if the tank was there, that might tend to level out at least the chlorine levels, because the chlorine's not being injected at source.
That is true.
It's being injected into a tank, holding.
Yeah. So if you just built a tank, you would chlorinate the water, it goes to the tank, and sort of settles out, and yes, it would be relatively even,
Should be more constant, yeah.
but if you can get rid of all the turbidity
Yeah.
and all the particles in your water, then you've got to beat it. It's much easier to deal with.
So your filter is a good idea.
Not my idea, it's an idea.
But it would get rid of
Yes,
some of the junk.
it would get rid of all the particles, yes.
So how do we compare to the rest of the island?
We're
Um,
much better.
Well, of course,
You see a lot of, like, if you were just on deep wells, you wouldn't have to deal with turbidity. So, and a lot of them, like Blue Water used to take water from the creeks, used to have the same problem. Now they just deal with deep wells. King Edward Bay is just deep wells. Bowen Bay is just deep wells. So they don't take anything from the surface. The only people that take surface water is Tunstall Bay, and they have one well that takes from the surface from a creek, Explosives Creek. It comes in, there's 2 sand filters. It goes through 3 particle filters. It gets UV, and then it goes to the tank, as well as their deep wells. So they have that as a spare, they're one well, but everything is deep wells. So you've got Cove Bay, Eagle Cliff, just take water from the surface, chlorinate it, and that's it. That's why Cove Bay is actually hoping to build a treatment plant. Hood Point actually has sand filters and UV.
And chlorine,
Hey,
and chlorine.
well, they all have chlorine. So, unfortunately, you and Cove Bay are at the bottom of the list now.
Great.
Everybody else, Blue Water and Bowen Bay used to take surface water, and we had the same problems trying to keep a residual on that, and that's why they went to deep wells. They don't use as much water, and they can deal with it easier. But then there's other issues with deep wells, so it's not as easy just drilling a well and going, we're fine. Like you guys, you have 2 deep wells, you have arsenic, so it costs you money to deal with the arsenic.
Are you finding that the water levels are dropping down in the wells, or is there any way of knowing?
There's, until they run dry, no, but they seem to be fine. It's not like they're tripping out on us, so
Right.
they seem to be working fine the way they are, touch wood. So the next page is your THMs and HAAs. This is, so if you look, the recommended is 100, now this is parts per billion, not million now, right? PPB. So the Canadian Drinking Water Guidelines say you can't go over 100 parts per billion or 80 parts per billion, and HAAs. You guys are not too bad. There's systems that are a lot higher than that. I'm not gonna say who, but,
But it's not that good.
well,
You're not
oh,
saying that,
I'd be pretty happy with that,
would you?
yeah.
You don't think?
There's other systems that are higher than that are actually over that. So for you guys to get surface water and get that, you're very lucky. For the amount of chlorine that goes into the system. And then events, so you guys, I actually did turn the jump, it froze in January again for Hood Point. We give them water through the jumper line by David Rinch's place. That line was buried a few years ago, so you guys don't even see it. I remember years ago, you see the fire hose in the ditch? It's all been buried, and they actually paid for that. You guys didn't have to pay for that. We're still doing our upgrade. Leak detection, we go around. We have a SCADA system that actually we watch every day. So at night, usually you shouldn't use 0 unless David's up doing something. If it's not going to 0, my guys are out looking at, somebody's left a garden, either a garden hose on or something. We find more and more now that there's people that are leaving their garden hose, accidentally leaving the garden hose on and stuff like that. So we've talked to people like that. We replace water meters when we need to. Arsenic filters, we actually do tests on the filters too, make sure that they work. So we'll do a sample before with arsenic, and a sample, so out of the well, we'll do a sample after the arsenic filter to make sure that they actually work. We do that twice a year. We've done a dam safety O&M manual for the open reservoir. We didn't tear your hydrants down this year. Next year we'll tear them down. We do them every 2 years. And we're doing meter readings. We do them more than 4 times a year sometimes. If there's a lot of usage, we'll go walk around and start reading meters to check to see who's doing what.
Excuse me, why do you tear down your hydrants?
So hydrants should be tore down. So if a fire department takes a hydrant, say for instance there's a fire, we service that after they actually use it. So what happens is you've got a hydrant here with 2 ports sticking out. Turn the hydrant on, water comes out, and what it is the big long shaft with a valve at the bottom that opens up. Water runs through that and gives to the fire department.
Yeah.
All those mechanisms, all the threads and all the threads at the top on that, when the water's running out of the hydrant, it flushes all the grease away. So when you shut the hydrant off, after they've used it, all that is just sort of sitting there and it's gonna rust on you.
Okay.
And so 2 years down the road, you go, oh, let's try this, and then it's all rusty and it doesn't work. So that's why we do it twice a year, or once every 2 years. So we make sure that, and we pull all the guts out, we re-grease everything, and then put it back so it actually works.
Okay, great. Thank you.
There was a discussion a couple of years ago with regard to the metering at the house, that there was a chance that you were going over to digital meters.
Yeah, any meters that are not working properly, or we find that lots of times you'll blow the bottoms out of them, we actually replace them with new meters. That's the one there that we spent $3,000 instead of $9,000. That would be for new meters that we replace. I don't want to. I really hate tearing a meter out that's working properly and then going, oh, I'll give you a new meter. Then what's the old meter do?
Yeah.
It's silly to change it. But if they read low like David's, then I put a new one in.
Can't get over the fact that we only use 55 gallons a day.
Well, yeah, it'll change now, Dave.
No, okay.
Have a real meter on there.
He's got a reasonable meter, he can't go and fix it now, okay.
Can't fix them anyway.
Well, if I can just say, on the meter reading, I was so impressed in last December, a knock at my door, and it was your meter guys. They said, do you have any water running? Went to my 2 taps. I said, no. And it was a break between, right at the house, which I would never have known, never seen it, never heard it or anything else. In December, they actually uncovered this thing. So, huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my guys. That's not me.
Yeah, no,
They're not, they're,
pass it on to your guys and do it.
Bob, this is, it's a small one to you guys, but it's big to us. One time, the hydrant was flush, and somebody used the fire hose and ran it down Cater Road, and it was completely ditched out, you know, I mean, so I don't know if that just, if there's who, I didn't even get it, I just fixed it myself, but, like, so the next time they blow that hydrant, could they run it maybe?
Elsewhere?
Well, not across the road, because you can't run over them, but, yeah, that was, especially now since we've resurfaced it, and it,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
So after that, page 12 just talks about the operators. Some of them are still here, some of them are gone. And that's a map of your little area. This is a graph of the chlorine. This is how hard it is on page 16, how hard it is to keep chlorine residuals. And all this on page 27. This is Vancouver Coastal Health wants us to put this in L1, which means less than 1, so all the samples. And then if you go to page 29, page 30, these will be your wells and your open reservoir. So this is raw water. Is it page 30? That's what I got.
It's page 30 of 56, bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah. What page is it? What page is the one before that?
Oh,
29.
29.
Okay. So you can look at,
Keep going. Keep going. You have it.
ALS.
The other way.
Yes, yeah.
29
You
of
want to
50.
set it up ALS?
you guys didn't get it?
29 of 56, hard to see the number.
It says ALS at the top.
Appendix 3.
Go to page 29. and
There it
turn
is.
to
Oh,
one
there it
more.
is.
What page is 29, turn the page.
There you
Did I confuse everybody? Page 29 and 56?
Well, on the top right corner, it says page 17 of 35.
Oh, okay.
So I got it.
Oh,
And buried under the blue at the bottom, it says page 30 of 56.
Not page 17.
so this is what is coming out of your reservoir. This is before it's treated or anything. So if you look, your coliform is over 200 parts per million. So that's what chlorine will do to kill all the bugs. Right? Because you should really have 0. So when you're taking that water, and you guys have manganese, so
That's,
it's quite a process to get rid of manganese. That stains your, that makes like a dark, almost a blackish brown color in your, like your toilet bowls and that. That's from manganese. I can get rid, like if you built a treatment plant, you would actually get rid of that. There's ways of getting rid of it. It's not as easy. You raise the pH and you add chlorine and then you get rid of the pH. There's a whole system to get rid of that. So, but that's just your raw water. So just because we only chlorinate, the only thing that we're actually doing is getting rid of your bacteria, coliform.
What about the arsenic?
There is no arsenic. It's not over the limit. Your arsenic is 0.00036.
but this is from the reservoirs.
That's from the reservoir, right? So then if you go to the next one, come on, don't jump ahead. So this is, that's the next one from the reservoir, okay?
You gotta go 3 over.
And then you have your THMs, and then you've got,
You haven't done a raw water control.
I have, because I do an arsenic on it. Oh,
Oh, there it is.
Audible?
No, the next one's the raw treated one.
no, that's the treated, so that's,
Raw water is
Oh, keep going, it's near the back, it's Eagle Cook well number 2 before filter.
yeah.
It's the last one.
Yeah, okay, so that's page, oh,
20, 25.
Page 1 of 3 or page 39 and 56.
Okay.
at the very back.
There it is,
Yeah,
yes, very
about
back.
3 of them.
So that's your arsenic in your well. And then, oh, I don't have the one, I have one after that that's not attached to this to actually check to make sure that there is no arsenic afterwards. It's not in here.
You're holding that
It's the
back.
following page, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's open pretty well after arsenic.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the other
Yeah.
way.
Yes,
It's
it's page
after
40 or 56.
after the
You're right,
arsenic.
it's not.
oh, okay, sorry.
Page 2 of 3.
Yeah, so on the back side of that, so you see before the well?
0000233.
Yeah.
That one, right there.
Not very much.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
New exchange rate.
So that's, we make sure that you have no arsenic in your system.
So how often do we check that?
I check it before, once we start the well, and once we end the well, just to make sure it works for the whole year. So you see,
But you don't check it daily or
No.
monthly or?
no, that arsenic test is likely $50 to $75, so, and then it would take you a week to get that.
How about dangerously high
Well,
after that 2 weeks?
well, that's why I test it, so we run it for maybe 2 months. So after that, I test it when it's done again, to make sure that it's gonna work next year. And then we test it again next year. So, if, I can test it more often, but I'm comfortable that I know it's working. Because I have other ones that, so I watch it and see if the arsenic starts coming up. Then you know the sand filters are not working properly. It's not like it would just quit one day. The water runs through green sand and then filters it out. So you'll see it rising and rising and rising, and then you go, okay, I'm gonna have to change all the sand filters. It's not instant.
So you don't backflush them, Bob, you have to change the
Yeah,
sand.
the sand will have to be removed and done again.
And this sand filter, is it a big filter? I mean, I don't know what they look.
They're about this big around,
Yeah.
about this tall, and there is a dozen of them.
Oh,
Wow.
It's, that whole little bunker is basically full of sand filters.
so it,
Yeah.
and what's that alarm system that's in there? Like,
That's the UV, because what'll happen is the UV will go, oh yeah, it's fine, and then maybe you've taken more water, so you've pulled out of the reservoir, and it hits that for a second, that goes, oh, I can't filter, or I can't UV it enough, and then it goes back down, and so it'll keep alarming forever until we reset it. So we reset it, and then the next day we reset it again. So that's your UV alarm, it's not your arsenic filters.
okay.
Does it wake you up?
No, but when I'm catching the bus.
Yeah, well, I get calls daily from Richard about it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty well it for the report.
You've
So
got
you did a
three
couple
options
million
for
bucks.
that.
Yeah, these are, the 3 options. So, is that actually on your, everybody's,
No,
the way at the back?
Yeah, it's the
Yes.
second page on the back.
The one, yeah, that was the one that we presented.
You presented that to me.
I
didn't you?
presented that. yes.
Okay, that's in the LAC agenda, so these
Yeah.
guys won't have it, but
No,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm reading the wrong.
Maybe for the next meeting.
pattern.
yeah, that's the next meeting. You're jumping ahead,
they're
Allison.
welcome to stay for
Yeah.
it, of course, which they're welcome to stay for.
Yeah. Which we should get on to because the Hood Point meeting is at 7.
Yeah, you've got another reading
Yeah.
there.
So that's our year report. There'll be another one again in another 6 months, but any other questions?
You guys were very good turnout compared to the one we had the other night.
Bob, with, Ben's proposal here,
Yeah,
when you get the, results from your consultants, are they going to option 1, option 2, option 3, say?
this is what it's gonna cost, yeah. And so,
Option
You-
1 was thrown out.
Well, option 1's the existing system, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Oh, option 1,
no,
yeah.
the original, putting an 8-inch line all the way from reservoir to the chlorinator. And that's just, well, it's not a waste of money, but if you don't put a tank in,
so when he's talking about option 1, this isn't in your guys' package, I guess, but that's for the next meeting, if you wanna stay. But option 1 says upgrade Eagle Cliff water system, so they're just changing it to make an 8-inch all the way from the reservoir to the chlorination. So it will not help you with, it'll just, it does nothing, because you still have 6-inch along the main.
well, and if we have to use water at a fire rate, then we're gonna get a boiler. Like the
Yeah.
chlorine and the auto, it can't match the flow, and so it's a waste, like, not a waste, but, because it would give you flow, but you said you don't want boilers.
No, you don't wanna make people sick.
And I think we, on the East Cliff Community Association, voted for number 2.
No.
Option 2, didn't we?
We voted for option 2.
Yeah.
Just, well, that, or no, it's not that we know what's right, we just said that's
That's
the
what we
sense
option two.
for the present.
Yeah.
We presented that as, is this something that can happen? And now you use your expertise and tell us what's the best.
So looking at that, in reality, you'll get better quality of water, but you will still not get fire protection,
Yeah.
because you still have that 6 inch along the bottom.
Yeah,
6-inch
that-
lines.
That could be done after we pay off.
Yeah.
But it would be, I think in the discussions we had, while we wouldn't meet the standard of fire protection, it would still offer an improved fire.
In reality,
protection
yes.
To what we have,
Yes.
because we wouldn't have that choke point.
Yeah,
And we have 50,000 gallons, or whatever the amount is, chlorinated water.
yes.
It's treated for the time it needs to be treated.
And what's option 3? 8-inch all the way?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't have pricing in that.
That's
Well,
another
this
one.
one- Yeah, there's more people, I don't know.
So does that give us the new reserve? When you say $1.5 million, is that just on the roads,
Yeah,
8-inch, but nothing else?
no. Complete fire protection. A double system, one with 8-inch line with untreated water, and the present system with treated water for drinking. You have 2 parallel lines.
So basically, it was done.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't treat the water that's gonna be used for fire.
It was a shame when we saw Graham Ritchie's house burn in 45 minutes. The trucks were there, the captain was there, fire chief, and one of the pumper trucks was there, but he couldn't do a damn thing other than try to keep the trees from burning, which at least 5 that I saw were burning quite well.
yep.
So all you can do is
Keep them spread.
control the forest fire potential.
Yeah.
But the house went down in 45 minutes, and there's other reasons for that. No pressure.
Yep.
Volume,
Yeah.
lots of pressure, no volume.
It works out the same, 100.
Annette, do you want to do your presentation now?
My presentation, you're always welcome to call me in the office if you have questions.
Have you pushed signing up for the email distribution list?
For what?
We got an email distribution list for each system.
Yes,
So
yes, we have that.
you've plugged people to get them to sign up.
Yeah, on every bill, you're invited to sign up if you have not done so yet. That's so you're informed about everything current and always.
Sign up, we're going around, you guys want to sign on there?
We're going to move into our LAC meeting in a few minutes, and everybody is welcome to stay. But before I end this meeting, if there's any further questions for Bob or myself, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll move into the next meeting.
What's the next meeting?
It's the local area.
Election
local advisory
for
committee.
if you want to stay and be the president of the
All the local